Jason, thank you. The race for an open seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court also heading into the final month of campaigning. Today in Neenah, the Liberal candidate on the ballot, Chris Taylor, met with voters at a local union hall. Right now, she serves as a justice on the Wisconsin Court of Appeals, representing the state's 4th district in Madison.
We have an opportunity to strengthen the state Supreme Court to protect our rights and freedoms, to protect our democracy, our elections, and to make sure this court is going to hold the other two branches of government accountable.
Well, Taylor is facing conservative Maria Lazar, who also serves as a judge on Wisconsin Court of Appeals, representing District 2 in Waukesha. Now, this week, Lazar's campaign released new advertising with a press release saying the ads draw a defensive line between Judge Lazar's commitment to judicial restraint and the radical, out-of-touch legislative history of her opponent.